Hello, hello. Welcome to Leap Taken. Here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. So, I want to talk about how well do you know witchcraft? How much do you know about the craft? Um, do you consider yourself a baby witch? I'm looking down at my notes. Do you have a particular path that you're on? How proficient are you in divination, herbology, spell work, ritual, etc.? um, the amount of time you've practiced magic can influence the amount of knowledge that you've gained, right? And how much you know. However, and this is a very big however, I actually wrote it in all caps on my notes. If you've stopped and started off and on throughout your practice, okay? Um, you skip the high holidays, as I call them. You haven't had any moon rituals. Um, you have dreams, but you put it off trying to figure out meaning or kind of thinking too much about it. Signs, symbols from the universe. You see them, but you don't actually do anything with that knowledge or really give it too much of a second thought. Um, you might be a witch walking around with about a solid 30 days worth of knowledge. Um, I'm a straight shooter. I can be a little blunt. I'm just going to be honest with you. Um, a couple days worth of experience because it could have been 5 years, but if it sums up to 3 to 4 years where you really haven't done much of anything, you haven't put anything into practice, you haven't studied, you just kind of are attracted to witchcraft, but you haven't really done anything. You might not know a lot about witchcraft. You might have some knowledge, but that's okay. And somebody needs to say that to some of us. I've been there, so I speak from knowledge, from experience. I've been that witch early on, where it's a lot of false starts and stops and pausing and um, constantly feeling overwhelmed and lack of confidence that I didn't really know what I was doing, so therefore I didn't do anything, which is the worst thing. So that was kind of my story, and I wish I hadn't wasted so much time back then, but unfortunately I did. But I can speak to it now. I, I, I don't want to say I wasted time because I hate that sounds so regretful, but honestly I did. Of letting life get in the way and kind of being on a roll and then losing momentum because fear. I had to grapple with Christianity, the leftover residual effects of that. Please understand that people think what is really um, indoctrination, and for some people, they even experience this as trauma. Other people who are deep into that faith see it as faith. They see it as the spirit has a hold of you. God's not done with you. Um, they see that as a sign that deep down your belief is strong. That's why you can't let it go. When just looking at it from, to me, in a mental state, it was indoctrination since I was young. So I had to redefine my worldview, my outlook on so many different subjects, from sexuality to definitely sexuality, to just the way death. I believe that's why I feared death so very much, because I never fully could wrap my mind around heaven or hell. Even when I was deeply into it, I figured it might not be what people are saying it is and the movies say it is, heaven or hell. Either way, they did not seem appealing to me. Streets of Gold is not appealing to me. What am I doing? Do we have cars in heaven? Is y'all we driving? What are the streets for anyway? Um, burning for eternity. I was like, but if it's your spirit, so the spirit's flesh burns. So I'm just uncomfortably hot indefinitely. I'm just suffering forever. I don't know. I never could get with that. Anyway, the point is, um, that space kept me from fully embracing what I was being called to for quite some time. If you're watching this video and you feel like witchcraft is important in your life, but you don't feel witchy, I would just say this to you: stop discounting how much knowledge you've already gained. Um, so when I ask that question, how knowledgeable are you about witchcraft? Because you don't feel it, you might say, well, I mean, I know some things, because a lot of people attribute knowledge to having some sort of feeling. Like you'll feel like the real witch that you know you really are and that you're called to be. Um, be careful with that because you have most likely you probably have a ton of knowledge. People like that usually read a lot. They watch consume videos like this. Um, they usually get really into I want to say the book learning of it all, the practical side, but the actual practice of it, maybe that's the problem, because it doesn't feel witchy. You're expecting to have the feeling before you do the work. And the feeling comes from doing the work, and you build momentum off of that. So the more spells you cast, the more rituals that you do and that you're consistent with. And these don't have to be grandiose things. I mean, start with the tea and coffee spell in the morning and be consistent. That's a ritual. Be consistent with that. Do something ritualistic often throughout the day. Get about 3 things going. 3 is a magical number. Get about 3 things going, and then occasionally, on the weekend, throw in a spell to top it off. Health, just health. You want to be healthy. There's COVID still exists. There's all this other stuff. Just speak your intentions over that candle, light it, and then get a little fancier as time goes on. That also builds confidence, which then you'll feel witchy. Which you're lacking with that feeling you might think you don't feel. That has everything to do with confidence. And honestly, you gotta put yourself on a routine to be more magical, to live more magical. Don't place witchcraft over here, something that you, like a box you open up when you have time and you're looking at it. And then when you feel like, well, I could do this, but I don't feel specifically witchy. I don't feel this feeling I think I'm supposed to feel that everybody else talks about. I don't feel like a spirit's coming over me or around me. I don't feel like I'm getting any messages. You keep it at arm's length, your spirituality and witchcraft, when you do that. Immerse yourself, and it takes time. It takes time. Another example I kind of want to give for others who are well-meaning witches, but life gets in the way. Let's just be honest: kids, spouses, jobs, school, all of those at the same time. Death, moving. I'm somebody who's been through so many different things. I've moved so many times with kids, the husband, all of that sort. I had all that stuff going on at that time. And I was homeschooling them. And sometimes I did work within that, like an outside job. But anyway, in those situations, you are knowledgeable, trust me. You might not feel like you have enough time to practice the knowledge, but knowing the power of the new moon, right? Knowing is great for setting intentions. Knowing that is half the battle. Putting into practice would have you win, but just knowing that as well, because that knowledge is there. Even if you don't do anything with it, you might be talking to somebody and you could share that and you've helped them. But this is the perfect time to set your new moon intentions. Now, you might not actually do anything, because by the time you get home and it's dark outside and you wanted to do something, you're probably going to fall asleep. I remember that life with kids and running and doing stuff. Like, I was exhausted by the end of the night. I didn't do anything. So I totally get it. But knowing that, that's a good thing. You're aware, because honestly, on a subconscious level, you might be still setting intention. So you got to be careful with that subconscious, because it could be sending out energy into the universe, more reflective of what your current conscious state is, as opposed to what you would prefer to be happening. So just be mindful. And either one of these situations I just talked about, these different examples, I can be of assistance. If you head on over to leaptaken.com, I do offer services. I offer a mentor program, and there's 2 tiers to that mentor program. So the first tier, I think, is perfect for the person who might be stopping and starting. You might have you've gained some knowledge over the years. Yes, you're probably maybe at the 101, Witchcraft 101 phase. You most likely are probably right there, like you completed that phase. You're not in the middle of it, like you've done that. That's where you are. You need to go further. So you need to take what you've learned. We can build a framework around it, not a box, a framework to give you sort of a landing spot, a place to settle all that knowledge. And then now you got a jumping off point to learn more. And you have a place to put this, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually speaking. You'll now have a place to put it, which will make you feel grounded and will make you feel more comfortable learning more. It gives you a place to put it. Think of it, to me, what I do is basically help you build sort of shelves for the many books of knowledge that you'll gather. And I'll help lead you to those resources, but I'm helping you to bring in what you've already had, the knowledge you've already gained over years. I don't care if it was 30 days versus 30 years. The point is you've gained some knowledge. And plus there's our intuitive knowledge. Some of us practice based on our intuitiveness. We're guided by those who came before us, and they speak to us. And it could be quiet. It's a way where we just know to read that book. We just know to do that particular meditation on that day at that time. It's a knowing. And I recognize that, I respect that. So when I'm working with someone, especially on that first tier of the mentor program, I want to recognize that. I want to make sure you understand, I know where you're coming from. Okay, let's build from that. Let's build on that and create a framework so that by the time we're done in those 4 weeks, you walk away, yeah, with the things that spells, rituals, and things like that, but you also walk away now with a foundation, a solid foundation, so that you can continue to build. Now, my second tier of mentorship program that I offer, that is definitely for somebody who's you might have stopped and start, but for those who probably say they don't feel it, you don't feel it, you're not getting it. You got the stuff, you got the crystals, you write things down, but it feels more like you're a student more so than a practitioner. So honestly, if you feel more comfortable with the first tier, I can understand that. But if you're in that space, you most likely have you've gained knowledge over time. You've studied because you wanted it, you just don't feel it. And that's a different way of mentoring altogether. And I used to be there. I used to be there more than once, actually. Sometimes it's a slump. It's just a spiritual slump. Other times, there's some blockage. There's something going on. Sometimes we rely too much on our practical mind. The mundane kind of takes more precedent over the spiritual, over the magic side. And you just need a little help with kind of learning to balance those, because it's not balanced. And that's why you're not making strides with spells. You want to do the spells, but maybe you're not even doing it anymore because you don't feel witchy enough. It's not that you don't know how, you don't even bother putting it into practice because it just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? So that my second tier of the mentor program is a 6-week, and that we get a little, you walk away with spells and rituals as well, but there's a more opportunity for more discussion, to ask questions outside of our Zoom meetings. You can, because things are going to be happening and you're going to probably have questions those in between times before we meet. And I allow for that opportunity because we want to grow it. So we want to create ritual and routines and things like that that make sense and fit in your life. There are 2 ways of approaching how to access knowledge of the craft. Let me turn my notes over. Both involve being honest with yourself. And here's where I'm going to be probably really blunt. So the first way is you take into account all the knowledge you've been exposed to through all sources. It could be here, YouTube, your books, your podcasts, blogs, your own intuitiveness, etc. Failed spells, misguided rituals, they count as knowledge gained because you learn by what you might have, what didn't go right? Thought-provoking talks, yeah, and with like-minded people helps to absorb knowledge as well. One, it's a dynamic of both, giving and receiving, but you're gaining knowledge, you're gaining different perspective. So that's one approach, taking all of that into account when I ask you how much you know about witchcraft. That's just taking a broad approach. The other approach is you measure your knowledge only by time and dates. You see knowledge being gained exclusively by doing or experiencing versus absorbing knowledge through reading books or watching videos. You have definitive ideas on what a knowledgeable witch looks like, and you don't see yourself. You don't see yourself necessarily that way. You're basically, what I'm saying is, you're looking outward to assess knowledge, basically how it looks more so than what's actually inside. You know what I mean? You're gonna, and I'm sure we've seen. I'd like to believe I'm the first option, by the way, not the second. However, in this time of witchy aesthetic and spiritual aesthetic and all that sort of stuff, the New Age aesthetic, I should say, it's very. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of the younger witches coming in, because of social media, they can, as they've just learned this information. And I don't know how you could say you didn't just learn, because if you're like 18, I mean, you could say, well, I've been doing it since I was 8. And I was like, I mean, the 8? Like, okay, so 10, yeah, you got 10 years on everybody. Okay, 8 though? Okay. Yes, time is going to matter, but those are the ones who they'll tell you this is, and I know this because I've experienced this. They will be the ones to look you dead in the eye and say, "I've been practicing a practicing witch for 10 years," and they tend to give you that timeline. By the way, that's what I'm talking about. That's how they assess their knowledge. That's how they will present it to you. When I tell you how long I've been practicing, I've been saying the same amount of time. I realize for years now. I say, "Oh, it's been over a decade." I never give it exact amounts because I don't think it's necessary. It's been well over a decade. I'll just let you know. But anyway, I don't go into that because I don't think it's important. That's not how I assess how much knowledge I have of my spirituality and witchcraft. That's not how I see it. So depending on where you fall in that, if you are in the second one that I described, I suggest you do a little, self-analyzing here and maybe deconstruct some of that. There's no shame in not knowing a lot about witchcraft. And technically you've been in it for some time, whatever that is, a year or 2 years or 10 years, if you're counting from when you were age 8. There's no shame because we're always learning. I'm not someone who knows everything about everything. None of us really are. What is that? Jack of all trades, master of none. Like, I think it's important for us to keep learning. That's what I do. That's what I position when I work with the mentorship programs. I want you to, basically, what I do is I want to help you build that foundation so that that foundation of where your spirituality, your witchcraft sits is solid, it's there. So you can, somebody like me, I can then learn about dragon magic and I can immerse myself into that. I can welcome contact with a different goddess and immerse myself in the history and the lore and the mythology around this goddess and understanding it and create journals about it. But guess what? I take this dragon magic information I learned, this information about this goddess, and I have a foundation to sit it on and to organize those thoughts, those ideas, without ever feeling like I'm not grounded, like I'm into something all the time and I'm not solid in whatever my original, not even original, I want to say my founding beliefs are. I'm just building on that. And to do it that way makes studying and learning about magic and about witchcraft and and paganism, basically, to me, it keeps it from being overwhelming. And also, I don't feel like I'm losing out on anything. Like I'm getting FOMO because I'm so interested over here in studying about dragon magic. I forgot to care about the fairies, or I feel guilty because I really should be studying about that. But this is, that God and goddess situation. I really want to get more into that. I don't have those feelings of conflict about spending too much time and, like I said, just getting overwhelmed and then doing nothing. Instead, I have a core traditional system, basic tradition, I should say, not traditional, tradition that I work from. So there's room to learn all these things and take my time with it, pace myself at the pace I feel comfortable with, right? Because I have my core traditions of cottage witchery. You don't have to put a name to it, but whatever your core spiritual beliefs are, we'll just go with that, whatever they are. And we build a practice around that. We create a practice which involves ritual and, yes, maybe some spells, but definitely ritual defines it. And then we move from there. If you're not someone who feels called to do moon rituals, then don't do moon rituals. If instead a bright sunny summer day is what like you feel energized, it lifts your spirits in ways that you can't quite explain. A day outside, like it just, you feel so connected to everything around you, the trees, the plants, the flowers, the animals. That's your space, that's your ritual, that's your thing. Moon magic might not be your thing, and that's okay. I don't think we're all doing the same thing. Having reverence for it, yeah, fine. I mean, you can still make space for that because you can still utilize the energy of the full moon cycle or the new moon cycle or whatever, and those phases leading up to and away from. I think you should probably still tap into that, but it's not something that centers, your magic. Um, it's really fun to work with people and to get them to see that all that information they've gained over the years, a bit here, a bit there, and from all that stopping and starting, or that wealth of knowledge they gained but never actually practiced any magic, can be put to use. It can be put to use, and it can turn into something very beautiful and fulfilling. Um, I know for me, over the years, a lot of things that I've had a lot of different events, life events occur, and it's been settling for me to be able to have witchcraft. It helps me. It helps me through really bad times to just annoying times and to even great times. I don't feel like, I don't know why this is happening to me. I'm happy like something good happened. People are like, I don't know, like usually nothing like this happens for me, but now it is. And the way they're speaking, I'm like, no, I know I deserve good things. So I know why this is happening for me. I deserve this. I'm supposed to have these good things happen to me. That's how I look at life. So go easy on yourself. Feel free to learn at the pace that feels right for you and record your knowledge. Bits of quotes, ideas, and facts you've picked can build up into a practice over time. That's been my experience anyway. Um, yeah, I think that if you are willing to kind of learn how to really just assess everything about yourself, feel comfortable with that, be honest with yourself. If you're in a magical slump and this video has come across your path, hopefully this can help you get out of it by just kind of taking stock of where you are now. We're about to go into a season where this is going to be the perfect time to do so. Right now, it's summer that I'm recording this. And it is, to me, summer is more about experiencing all the work, the magical work, the labor that's been done, and now it's a time for you to be celebrating and kind of play and frolic. And all those spells and rituals you've been doing up until now, just frolic and play. Celebratory rituals, gratitude rituals are a great time right now. So we're going into that definitely going into August. And then once we get into more fall, to me, and going into the winter, not only are you taking stock, you are, because you're dreaming and around Yule. You're dreaming, you're plotting, you're planning. You're starting to devise dreams and ideas about what you want and how do you want to see your witchcraft. I work by the will of the year. My magic, I work it by the will of the year. So I think like this. So this is a perfect time to start thinking about that sort of stuff. What have you learned? How much do you know? Do you want to know more? Do you want to start all over again? Why do you want to start all over? Why can't you just go off of the information you have now and build on? What do you think you gain by starting all over again? And if you feel like you've amassed a wealth of knowledge, why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't you doing more? you know, not because I said so or someone else, but because you know it would fulfill you more. You know, you would feel like a more balanced witch. You know that you would feel powerful if you did more rituals, if you did spells at all. You know, why aren't you? So these are the type of things you might want to ask yourself going forward. So thanks for watching. Again, I'm Mika. This is Leap Taken. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, consider hitting the join button, and check out leaptaken.com for the services that I offer, including the mentor program that I talked about, the monthly subscriptions, which are great to kind of get you back into a space if you've been in a magical slump, and readings as well. All right, so thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.